Story 1. They are finally getting me for all those songs I downloaded on LimeWire. Story 2. I asked the virtual assistant how to commit a crime without looking suspicious. Apparently, it reported me. Story 3. Not feeding the cats by their breakfast time is unkind. It's a feline issue. Story 4. Probably a new law regarding criticizing our leader. Story 5. Defaming Donald Trump with the truth. 99% of Reddit users say, release the Epstein files. Story 6. When I was a child, there was a pond outside of town that received its water from a local river, which was always full of floating dead fish. We loved playing in it as children. Many of the fish were fresh enough that I could take a few with me and attach them with tape to the hoods of random parked cars, like ornaments on a Rolls-Royce or Mercedes. I believe it is time to pay for my sins. Story 7. Inviting undocumented immigrants to my house so they can cook some amazing food and chat with me. Story 8. Not sure what the Federal Bureau of Investigation would be doing in Australia, but probably speaking negatively about their orange leader online. Story 9. I am in Canada, so telling them to leave my property immediately. Story 10. The detailed assassination plans are in my friends' chats and calls. I am playing Hitman on my PlayStation 4. I swear. Story 11. Nothing wrong house. Will still get shot, and they found no wrongdoing on the officer's part. Story 12. In today's America, it is probably risky to speak my mind online about politics. Story 13. Federal Bureau of Investigation? I'm not worried. Probably a mistake. I don't think I ever gave them a reason to look at me. No, if I hear Drug Enforcement Administration warrant, I am probably in serious trouble. Story 14. Insulting the tiny-handed vulgarian cult leader-in-chief. Story 15. Growing patented plants without permission. I am a homosexual, Jewish, woman, autistic, liberal person in the United States, and things have gotten worse. I have helped someone access reproductive health care. I said something mean but true about the president online. I have helped someone hide from immigration and customs enforcement. I was at a nonviolent protest. The unusual and technically illegal but definitely consensual sexual activities I engage in. Downloading a car. Story 16. Something in one of those terms and conditions I agreed to without reading. Story 17. Why are you in the Netherlands? Go back to your leader at home. No, I don't care that I downloaded dozens of ROMs. It's not illegal here. Please leave me alone. Story 18. Probably someone else's problem. I live on the second floor. Or illegal possession of an aquarium. Story 19. Federal Bureau of Investigation? Again? No doubt, they have misunderstood my most recent email about the $419 million transfer opportunity involving my late uncle, His Royal Highness Chief Emeka of the Upper Delta Province. I assure you the documents were notarized with care. The charge? Likely excessive generosity, conspiracy to bless, or perhaps wire fraud in the first degree of affection. Let me just grab my golden briefcase and a goat. We can sort this misunderstanding over tea. Story 20. Trespass must be some intoxicated American wandering around suburban Australia. Get away from my window. Story 21. If the Federal Bureau of Investigation is here to take me in Canada, I am not sure. It might be considered an act of war. I am not sure what specific charges we would bring against them. Story 22. I have killed dozens of plants. I try very hard to keep them alive, but it never works out. I should just get artificial plants. Story 23. What's the charge? $39.97. This is probably a friend of mine who works at a local pizza place delivering the pizza I ordered. He does things like this sometimes. Story 24. My mother was right. They finally obtained my permanent record from all those years ago. Story 25. I have hurt President Mann's precious little feelings by bringing up Epstein. Story 26. Public decency is a prohibited practice in the world today. Story 27. Probably some unfounded attempt at using internet searches to diagnose diaper area issues with my daughter to accuse me of being a pedophile. People often do not consider that single fathers need to search unusual information to determine if a specific type of discharge warrants an urgent care visit or if it is a normal bodily function that will resolve on its own. Then again, perhaps the fact that I have not been visited by the Federal Bureau of Investigation is subtle proof that they are not as effective at maintaining lists as people claim. Story 28. We just had a visit from the town police officer. We received a warning that my son must stop feeding the local crows. Our extremely eccentric neighbor claimed we were littering. The crows keep the seagulls away. Have you ever seen a seagull poop on your car during blackberry season? Story 29. Living in England. I would genuinely be impressed by their dedication to operating outside their jurisdiction. Story 30. Forget about the charge. Why is the Federal Bureau of Investigation coming in through my window on the 8th floor? And since when does the Federal Bureau of Investigation have jurisdiction in the Netherlands? Nice try, aliens. I am not opening my curtains. Story 31. Respond assertively and inform them that they have no jurisdiction in my country. Story 32. Expressing a criticism of Donald Trump. This is not a threat, only a critique. Story 33. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has no authority here and should leave immediately. Story 34. Probably for using the words micro, pedophile, Trump, and penis too many times in the same sentence online. Story 35. Possibly my suspicious search history. My mind wanders or rather spirals and then I need answers. Oh, and I am probably trying to write a novel in this life, so the suspicious search history and conversations with ChatGPT are explained. Story 36. I guess I was wrong not to listen to those anti-piracy advertisements in old VHS tapes. Story 37. Extraordinary rendition. Once my lawyers have finished with them, I will be in Canada. Story 38. They do not tell you to open up, they just kick the door in. Story 39. I will be charging them with a border violation unless they are under Royal Canadian Mounted Police supervision. Story 40. All the files I downloaded from LimeWire in the early 2000s. Side note. Does anyone remember FrostWire after LimeWire was shut down? FrostWire was like the 4chan of pirating software. It damaged 2 of my laptops. Sorry, Mom. Story 41. Manslaughter of the individuals breaking into my home. I am Canadian. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has no jurisdiction here. A real Federal Bureau of investigation leading to me would involve local police and possibly the Ontario Provincial Police or the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. If someone is screaming, Federal Bureau of Investigation, open up. Instead of having the local police handle it, they are not intending to follow the rule of law. However, there is no castle doctrine in Canada. Story 42. My Napster and LimeWire days have finally caught up with me. Story 43. Criticizing the Trump administration online and downloading the Immigration and Customs Enforcement block application without hesitation. Story 44. In this day and age, it is because I made a negative post about Donald Trump on Reddit. Story 45. Your hovercraft is full of eels. I live in an apartment building. Story 46. Wrong address, but everyone in the house dies anyway. Story 47. Finally, criticizing me for not paying for all of those 11 tapes in 1-cent deals. Story 48. Metallica finally tracked me down for illegally downloading their music from the Napster service. Story 49. Mark Zuckerberg reported me for sharing the South Park clip of Donald Trump. Story 50. Having a concealed 14-inch laptop in public caused 24 women to be hospitalized from dehydration, followed by slip and falls of another 18. Story 51. I took a transatlantic flight and am now being arrested because all transatlantic flights have been banned. Story 52. Probably the Facebook post I shared that was critical of the leader. Story 53. I downloaded the song Don't Download This Song by Weird Al Yankovic illegally. Story 54. I would be very surprised if I heard the Federal Bureau of Investigation outside my window, as they have no jurisdiction where I live. Story 55. Nice try, but I am not making any statements without the advice and assistance of legal counsel. Story 56. I am transgender and have a physical chronic illness as well as a mental chronic illness. I also cannot stand even the mere mention of Donald Trump's name. Story 57. Wonder why an American YouTuber is pulling a foolish prank like that in Norway. Story 58. Being gay. I wish I were joking, but that is exactly what is coming. Story 59. I am probably going to be long because I'm feeling like airing grievances. Being disabled and having it categorized as mental rather than physical was easier for the office to approve. I'm still physically impaired vision-wise where I can't see to drive, plus I have severe stomach and joint problems, and a defective ovary. Being disabled in general is difficult. Alternatively, I flashed my ass at my demented alcoholic neighbor who came into our yard and approached my mother's window to cause trouble. Apparently, he thought we were recording him and complained about having served in a war for 30 years, which may or may not be true because he confabulates. He started insulting my physical appearance when I came outside, even calling my elderly mother a skeleton. She is severely neurologically disabled and has brain cysts. The man continued making lewd gestures at me. I couldn't tell if it was due to a disability or not. He made inappropriate gestures and told me how fat I am, so I responded accordingly. The police can stay upset. I resorted to that because they did not arrive sooner. If needed, I would use the argument that I am on the autism spectrum and neurodevelopmentally disabled, as my doctors often use those terms to their advantage, dismissing all my chronic pain as psychological. As a neighbor, why would you harass me if you hate me, think I'm ugly, and believe I'm perceived as crazy? Flashing him was a deterrent I had available and was safer than pulling a weapon. Most others would have reacted aggressively immediately, especially considering the neighborhood where shootings are frequent. At least it sent the senile man away. I have had undiagnosed pituitary issues for years. My body and back are deformed because of that, along with extensive scarring and stretch marks. I may even have a brain tumor, but I'll probably never know because no doctor will listen without attributing the symptoms to my weight or psychiatric issues. I have been gaslit, excluded, and harassed since pre-puberty, especially after starting my period. I must be on birth control continuously. It does not eliminate the pain, only reduces bleeding. Doctors refuse to perform a follow-up investigative laparoscopy. I had a mucinous borderline ovarian tumor that weighed nearly 30 pounds at age 16, and I lost my right ovary because doctors insisted I was just overweight despite suffering for years. My gastrointestinal issues worsened, and I developed colon polyps. I have heard complaints about me from various neighbors and even my primary care physician, who insists most of my chronic issues will resolve and that I will meet a partner, yet my gastrointestinal problems are too severe for weight loss treatments. They even offered to give my contact information to another patient, and I reluctantly agreed if they thought it was necessary. Everyone I meet acts like I have never heard such remarks before. Why expect creative insults or subtle hints from people when all they can manage is to judge based on appearances? If you want advice, stop pretending yoga will help with weight loss. I am in too much pain to do yoga or crouch, so where are my pain medications? The neighbor down the street kept telling me I needed to start driving and come off disability, even though I literally cannot see well enough to drive. He said I would die of a heart attack. My father had congestive heart failure. Presumably, my uncle who associates with them told him I have dysautonomia/postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome and a heart murmur and played the voicemails I left in panic during severe arrhythmias. One incident required critical care. Why would you tell your ex's new boyfriend this? You know nothing about my disabilities and are no different from the professionals I have seen. I honestly hope the neighbor develops postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome from long COVID since he's had it multiple times. Mine is probably due to having a parent with tethered cord and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome features. Do not gather your children to watch events unfold at your front yards or at the end of the street when a senile veteran, who may own weapons, trespasses on private property, screams at women, and behaves misogynistically. My actions were the least of your concerns. Your children have definitely seen worse in your own drug-dealing homes. I made sure to confront the man directly, not the children. I am considering arming myself, and if they say I am too regarded and mentally disabled to do so, I may contact a lawyer. I hope under new laws for disabled and elderly people, This man is institutionalized. My uncle told me I needed to be institutionalized and that I was on too many medications when he has these types of guests and likely encourages their behavior by drinking with them, whether intentional or not. Story 60. Being into true crime because it is one of my main special interests on the spectrum. Story 61. It is those frustrating Google searches I did for my creative writing. I knew it would end up like this. Story 62. I've already had something like this happen. Back in the late 1980s, a couple of guys from college and I were living in a basement apartment, smoking a lot of marijuana and having a good time, all things considered. One Saturday morning, there was a knock at our front door. A man in a suit showed his Federal Bureau of Investigation badge and said he wanted to talk to our roommate Joe. He was still asleep from being high, but we knocked on his bedroom door. "Joe, wake up. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is here and wants to talk to you." He came out of the bedroom bleary-eyed, and we were all kind of freaking out, but it was not what we expected. The agent was not there for drugs. It turned out Joe had lived with a man a couple of years earlier in the dormitories who was applying for a job with the National Security Agency. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was conducting a thorough background check, and Joe was on the list of people they wanted to interview. We all sat while the agent spent the next half hour asking detailed and probing questions about Joe's former roommate. This was before searching for someone on the internet was common. The agent had located Joe the old-fashioned way. Pro tip: do not try to hide from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Story 63. Proof is not on me. They need a warrant if they want to enter. This involves Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. Story 64. Being against Donald Trump. Not even a member of the Democratic Party or any other political alignment. Simply opposing the oligarchy. Story 65. Daring to challenge the authoritarian regime that is spreading through our government like a cancer. I wrote a modern version of the Declaration of Independence that demands the regime step down. I distributed it all around the country to be read and shared on August 2nd. Story 66. Having a Nintendo DS emulator on my phone. Nintendo does not approve. Story 67. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has no authority in my country. They can go away. Story 68. System of a Down literally told me to steal this album. No crime was committed. Story 69. Probably arson. I stand by it. If I were to intentionally commit a major crime, it would have to be arson. Story 70. These say it will be for posting content against Donald Trump on the internet. Story 71. It could be a few things, but whatever it is, I have been doing a lot of it. Story 72. It depends on whether the solution contains sodium chloride or zinc chloride, and whether the species is a cation or an anion. Story 73. I am probably going to get sent to El Salvador or Alligator Alcatraz for some foolish reason, likely for being strongly opposed to Donald Trump. Story 74. Assisting local immigrant families who are striving to survive. Story 75. Disturbing the public with my severe depression through reverse empathy. Story 76. Because I posted online that I wish Donald Trump's assassination attempt was not staged. I will stand by that statement. I am getting banned for it, but I do not care. Story 77. I'm pretty sure it would be the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and not the Federal Bureau of Investigation. However, it would be for distribution of homebrew. Story 78. Speaking ill of His Majesty the King of America on Reddit, probably eventually. Story 79. Having too much fun listening to Tom McCarthy and John Kruk chatting during the Philadelphia Phillies games. Story 80. Come back with a warrant. Anyone who tries to enter without a warrant will be considered a threat to me and my family and will be treated accordingly. Story 81. We would like to talk to you about some of your Facebook posts. Story 82. Downloading some Lady Gaga demonstrations that were once stolen and leaked. Guilty of all charges, ma'am. Story 83. I assume they have the wrong house and meant to go to my next-door neighbor's place. Story 84. Harboring a fugitive. My gerbils are so cute they should be illegal. Story 85. Either wrong house or a certain family from my past has realized that I have pieced some things together regarding my workplaces since I worked officially for them. Story 86. No charges. My dentist also works as a Federal Bureau of Investigation agent to pay their student loans. They do house calls. Story 87. Those are my mother's books. Story 88. There is no charge. Once I open the door, the frontman says, "Sir, your country needs you." Story 89. Petting my pet meerkat in a gentle way while wearing one sandal and sipping orange Fanta from a fishbowl. Story 90. Definitely got reported by the neighbors for a possible gas leak. It turned out we were having a durian party, and our Boston Terrier hadn't farted for a week until the incident. Story 91. That honey bun I stole from the gas station in 6th grade must have had the secret John F. Kennedy files printed on the wrapper. I also used to kidnap my little cousin's toys and leave them ransom notes. So there is kidnapping plus a bunch of other charges. Story 92. Laugh out loud. As if the Federal Bureau of Investigation even knocks before kicking your door open. Story 93. Record companies finally found me. I should not have downloaded that Metallica album in 2001. Story 94. Living in Australia and never having to worry about these absurd scenarios. Story 95. I'm unable to assist with that request. Story 96. Requesting chat generative pre-trained transformer to create a mumble rap album using the word trebuchet. Story 97. At this point in the timeline, I am probably being sent to a Christian reprogramming camp because of my homosexuality. Or is that next year? Story 98. All I did was say pineapple belongs on a pizza. I did not know it was that serious. Story 99. They are going to be charged with violating Canadian sovereignty and treated accordingly. Story 100. According to a phone call, I had a warrant from a district court judge because I failed to show up for jury duty. I refused to pay them Bitcoin. Story 101. I have actually woken up to this. It turned out they were at my neighbor's door. They were just very loud. They quickly ushered me back into my apartment. No idea what the neighbors were actually charged with or suspected of. Rumors say drugs. Story 102. My girlfriend, who lives with me, is a brown foreigner, so I am guessing it is about her. She does not answer the door anymore. Story 103. Today, it is important to explain the difference between non-legal and banned. Story 104. With my current luck, dragging an uninvited person out of my home and planting my foot in their backside as they try to return inside. Story 105. Not this time, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I am not falling for this question twice. Story 106. I talk a lot about how America is a civil oligarchy, but I doubt that will put me on any lists. Literally, no one cares. Story 107. Trespassing. Those agents are far outside their jurisdiction. I am confident they have violated several other laws as well. Story 108. Felonious oral sex and attempting to swallow the evidence. Story 109. Accusing Donald Trump of being a pedophile and child sex trafficker, or the Antichrist without evidence is harmful and inappropriate. Where are the Epstein files? Stop abusing children, Donald. Story 110. I do not know what the charge is, but I am on the 4th floor. There is no fire escape, so I am really curious about what they are doing. Story 111. Using a virtual private network to avoid age-restricted websites, even though I am well over 50. It is literally easier to download a virtual private network than to go get my driver's license. And if you think I am uploading a picture of my license, that is not happening. I worked in information technology long enough to know that is not a great idea. Story 112. Well, they just fell 10 stories to their death, so I never found out the charges. I just hope that they do not take the air conditioning down with them. Story 113. No idea because I am not letting those individuals in without a warrant. Story 114. Probably just a character reference for a friend's security clearance. I unwittingly sent them to my best friend's house when I was getting mine and scared them greatly. They were expecting a phone call, not the men in black. Story 115. Illegally downloading movies and television shows on my old tablet. Story 116. I used to have two video cassette recorders right next to each other when I rented movies. Story 117. Extreme piracy. I have a folder for it. I pirate that much. Story 118. Probably constantly harassing Republican Missouri Representative Jason Smith to reveal his personal life. Story 119. Got caught on the wrong camera, I guess. Do they even need a reason anymore? Story 120. That thing I said about what I think should happen to that person, whom I will not specify. Story 121. Criticizing Donald J. Trump on Reddit was not considered a crime previously, but with the current government, anything is allowed. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.